24. Numbers 22 through 24. And there's one little mention in chapter 31 verse 8. 31 verse 8, but the whole story, the main part of the story takes place in Numbers chapter 22 through 24. This Gentile, Balaam, this Gentile seemed to be a man that God used at times who decided to sell his gift to the highest bidder. He sold his gift to the king of Moab. Why did the king of Moab want Balaam to come? Why was he paying for his services? Because Israel, they're near the end of the 40 years of wilderness wandering. They're near the end. They're headed to the promised land. They're about to go in. Moses' time as leader is short. Joshua will be taking over. The king of Moab, he's scared of Israel. Of course, he shouldn't have been, because God had instructed Israel, you're not to mess with the Moabites. You're not to mess with the children of Ammon, because the descendants of Ammon and the descendants of Moab were both Lot's children. You remember Lot, Abraham's nephew. Children of Israel, the children of Moab, and children of Ammon. They're all cousins. Right? King of Moab, he was scared. Of course, that's what the devil does. That's what the enemy does. He makes you scared. He makes you scared. So he hires Balaam to come and curse Israel. He thinks, well, Balaam, if you'll curse these guys, Scriptures, he says that in Scripture. If you can curse these people, I know I can beat them in battle. Of course, Balaam had been warned, you cannot curse whom I have blessed. And church, that's a spiritual truth. If God's blessed you, don't worry about the enemy. You just walk in God's path. You walk in God's path, and you'll never suffer defeat. Or it doesn't mean you won't be attacked, but you'll never suffer defeat. He finds a way of defeating. Balaam tries to curse Israel 3 specific times, but in each case, Balaam ended up blessing Israel. Makes the king mad. This Moabite king makes him mad. He said, I've paid you to curse him, and all you've done is bless him. It does figure out a way to curse Israel. It does cause Israel problems. That's where you see that in chapter 31, chapter 30. Oh, he finds a way of defeating Israel in battle, and he does so by corrupting Israel and causing Israel trouble. They invite the Israelite men to worship their god, their false idol. In so doing, there's sexual immorality that takes place there as well. We done talked about that. They didn't learn that lesson, apparently, did they? Brings judgment, of course. Of course, Numbers 31:8 tells us of the death of the Moabite king and Balaam. Numbers 31:8, Balaam is destroyed. He is destroyed. He is killed in battle with the Moabite king. There's the example lastly of Korah. Korah. Those who rebelled against, these were some folks that rebelled against Moses' leadership. You find this in Numbers chapter 16. All Numbers is an interesting book. If you're reading your open windows, you've not too long ago finished reading through Numbers. There are some places that the Lord, it's kind of boring reading all about the census and what they do. But you know what? There's some deep spiritual truths to be found in Numbers. Numbers 16 being one of them. This man Korah, a couple other fellows that were with him, that were dissatisfied with Moses' leadership. They were dissatisfied with Moses' leadership, thinking that they knew better. Thinking that they were better than what they were. I'm mindful of what Paul says, and we see that even in Galatians. Paul says in Galatians, what is it, chapter 6? I forget whether it's verse 3. Galatians 6:3. Mark this down. If anyone thinks he is something when he's nothing, he deceives himself. Boy, that's what Korah and them did. They thought they were something.